Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I am off work here on an Easter Sunday. We are 6 days away from WrestleMania. I got like about a 45-minute drive, I would guess, and I'm about to set out on to go to the Easter dinner. I'm prepared to have, I think it's ham. I'm guessing we're going to have ham and potatoes for dinners tonight. I don't think it's going to be lamb, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't remember them saying there was going to be prime rib. But hey, I'm looking forward to it. But I got a little bit of a drive on. We're 6 days away from WrestleMania. And I thought I would do like one of the throwback WrestleMania videos from back in the day to start off this drive, to basically kill a little bit of it. One of the things that, I haven't been able to really talk about in a long time was Hulk Hogan's retirement around WrestleMania 8. This happened in 1992. What really got me thinking about this more than anything else is kind of like the main event of WrestleMania 40 is kind of made up by the part-timers, I guess you could say, of WWE. Roman Reigns, he's dipped his toe in. He was in Hobbs and Shaw with The Rock, and of course The Rock making a big return to WWE this year, something we've always been really hoping for, but the guy's really been really busy. And during the writers as well as the actors strike that went down, we were kind of hoping that we would see him come back because John Cena did, and we were kind of thinking maybe he didn't really have anything to do, but then once the strike ended, we all thought, well, we're screwed, because basically these guys are going to want to make up as much money as they missed out on in the year, that they're just going to book as many things as they can back to back to make sure that the cash flow coming in for them is still big. People think that rich people don't have problems, but sort of like when you start making that much money, you kind of get used to spending so much money that you got to keep it rolling in, or you get into trouble really, really fast. But Hulk Hogan was really like, I want to say that he's the first guy, but he's not, because right off the top of my mind, I'm thinking, Hulk Hogan retiring at WrestleMania 8, when them coming out and saying this is probably the last time you're ever going to experience Hulkamania. That's the first retirement that I went through. I came into watching wrestling. I think we watched a VHS tape of WrestleMania 3. I only really remember the Killer Bees match, which is the match right before Hogan and Andre. So I don't know why I have such fond memories of that, even though I don't remember if I stayed in the room and watched the main event after that. I don't really remember it. But the prime time I came into wrestling, I don't think I came right into watching wrestling right out of WrestleMania 3. I don't have many big time memories until around WrestleMania, I want to say 5 to 6. I have memories of knowing what wrestling was a little bit before then, but I don't really remember, sitting down to watch day to day and trying to remember when Saturday night's main events were coming on and things like that. So the first guy I want to bring up that sort of got out of wrestling and had a retirement and went on to do movies was Roddy Piper. He was in the main event of WrestleMania 1. He had a boxing match at WrestleMania 2, and then WrestleMania 3, when you go back and you watch it, that's kind of put out there as Piper's retirement. Him and George, they go, is that his name, George? What the hell was that guy's name? They made that documentary. I'm embarrassed now that I really can't remember. The guy from the flower shop. And they go out there, and then Brutus the Barber Beefcake ends up coming out and cutting the guy's hair at the end of it. And that's supposed to be the end of Piper. Piper would come back countless times after that. Maybe the movie career didn't really take off the way that he thought it was going to, because Piper's back. WrestleMania 8, he wrestles against Bret Hart. He's back at the King of the Ring, where he wrestles Jerry Lawler. He does that special guest referee / commissioner role around WrestleMania 10. And then he's into WCW. Oh, no. He does the Backlot Brawl against Goldust. Then he's into WCW, and he's not really wrestling full time, but he's basically back into wrestling. And we all thought he was going to retire at WrestleMania 3. That's kind of the same thing with with Hulk Hogan that we're talking here. Hulk Hogan's career, as a Hulkamania fan back in the day, he had a weird time because I had gotten into wrestling. It didn't really matter when you saw Hulk always won. He was the guy who overcame everything. If you said your prayers, took your vitamins, you were going to come out okay. That was the story that I got out of watching wrestling, is that, no matter what, if you believed in yourself, you were going to overcome the odds. So many times you saw Hulk Hogan getting beat on in the ring, and, he would get to a point where he thought he was done. You thought he was done. And the dude, hulked up. He started getting back into the match, and he punched the guy in the head 3 times, throw him off the ropes, give him the big boot. Then he would give him the big leg drop. 1, 2, 3. All is forgotten how he got killed for 20 minutes in the ring. It's over, and it's Hulk Must Pose time. And you're turning off your Coliseum home videotape, or turning off Saturday Night's Main Event, and you're like, damn, Hulk did it again. No one can ever beat him. But what leads us into this was, I'll never forget, my dad brought home an advertisement. It was one of the things that sat on the table, in the middle, tabletopper thing. And it was a Survivor Series, 1991, the Gravest Challenge advertisement. And it basically was an advertisement to either buy the pay-per-view or come to the bar to watch the show. I am very guilty of being in a bar watching pay-per-views before, during, and after this time. It was the 80s. It was leading into the 90s. And times were a little bit different back then. And my dad, a single dad, he went to the bar a lot. He was very friendly with all the people there, and we broke a lot of the rules. I remember pizza night. I remember taco night. I remember a lot about the bar that I shouldn't remember as a kid that I was growing up. But I remember he brought that home, and it said Hulk Hogan versus The Undertaker WWF Championship match. It's the Gravest Challenge. And I'm like, oh, they must have messed up the advertisement, thinking that the bar actually made this advertisement. And it's going to be a Survivor Series match, because that's all they ever do at Survivor Series. 4-on-4, Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker are probably going to be the captains, and, they'll fill out a team. That's not what happened. And you get to the Survivor Series, and Undertaker wins the WWF Championship. And they turn right around. They're trying to see really how big pay-per-view is at the time. They're trying to push the limits to see how much wrestling fans will really pay, how often. And they turn right around, and they have a pay-per-view Tuesday night in Texas. I can't remember what night the Survivor Series was on, but I want to say, I think it was on a Thursday, or it must have been on a Wednesday, because it was right around the time of Thanksgiving. So they turn around and they do a pay-per-view the next week without even a full calendar going by, and it's the rematch, Hulk versus Undertaker. As a little kid at the time, I don't really know the business. I've never really gone back and read the old Meltzer. I don't know if this was on the calendar and people knew about it. I don't know if it was because it was such a shock they just threw a house show up as a pay-per-view. I don't even think I've really watched Tuesday in Texas back. It's not really one that they've ever put out on DVD. I don't know. It must have been on a super tape or something like that, because I don't really think there's anything that's just the Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view. And when I look at results and stuff like that, I only really remember the Skinner versus Bret Hart Intercontinental match, and then I remember the Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan WWF Championship match, and that's really it, where he gets the title back. Then you go to Superstars, Jack Tunney. He doesn't care, and he lets the first titles thing change when Ric Flair was all over that match. All of a sudden, because Ric Flair is involved in this match, he's like, you know what, we got to hold the title up, and then we're going to, put it as the prize for the Royal Rumble, which really did change the Royal Rumble for the first time. After this, it would sort of be that person went to WrestleMania, and it would be what we knew it to be. But, in 88, 89, 90, 91, they were just pay-per-views, and that was the match, and you didn't really win anything. It was just like send everybody home happy, and it was almost like, when you look back on it, Royal Rumble was used as like a just to push WrestleMania storylines. We saw the Mega Powers almost come to blows. We saw Hogan and Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, which set up WrestleMania 6. It was kind of like be testers to see how much people cared about it. And they still do that today. But the one guy that wins gets to go to WrestleMania. And for a while, they were screwing guys. Guys that would win, they would all of a sudden be put in a 3-way, and it's like, well, the other guy didn't win the Rumble. Why does this guy get to go and be in the main event? So, in the end, Ric Flair, he wins the Rumble. He is the guy that causes the commotion in both of those matches to put the title on the line of the Rumble. He doesn't beat Hogan. He doesn't beat Undertaker, but he ends up with the championship. So it's almost like he got what he wanted in the long run by the easy way. He won the Rumble from being in there from the very beginning, which nobody really thought was going to be done, because we were used to seeing winners that came out in the late 20s, and the draw that came out early in the night, you never saw anybody go bell to bell. He came out 3, I believe, but Hogan ends up being eliminated by Sid Justice, and then you see Hogan get booed for one of the first times in his career that people were. I like to think as a kid that people were booing that Hulk didn't win, and that's why they were booing. But you come to terms with people were kind of over the Hulkamania deal for the first time in his run, and they were ecstatic, because I think people really thought that Sid Justice, who came over from WCW, was going to be fresh blood and kind of be like the main guy to do it. But Hulk ends up acting like he wants to shake Sid's hand. Sid tries to shake it, and then Ric Flair comes over and dumps him out, and he becomes the main guy. Then you go to having a sit down with they actually hold a press conference. You look back on it, it's not what you remember it as. It's held in this little tiny room. There's 2 tables on the side of the podium. Jack Tunney is sitting there. I believe Mean Gene Okerlund is sitting to the left. Then you have Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, which is very funny to see The Undertaker sitting at a press conference table, just relaxed, wondering what's going to happen. You have Hulk Hogan, Sid Justice, the Macho Man, and Roddy Piper, all out there wondering who the number 1 contender for WrestleMania is going to be, because it wasn't made by the Royal Rumble yet. And they give it to Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan says, "Yes, I got it." You believe in it, and you see, Sid Justice reactive, like, he like immediately clenches up, like, you can already see that rage that is going to come out on the barbershop, where he basically decimates the set, and then the shaving cream blows up in his face, and that alone is hilarious. It's just one of those bloopers that they just had to keep because you couldn't do that twice. That's just the way that it has to be. But so Hulk Hogan is the number one contender. Then Sid and Hulk, they kind of make up. Sid kind of says he's sorry. They have a match on Saturday night's main event where they team up, and Sid just halfway through is done with Hulk again. Like, forget it. This guy's only out for himself. He's out there on the corner. He's not trying to make a tag. And then one time Hulk finally gets close to making the tag, and he just bails. At that time, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I just watched his Dark Side of the Ring. He's out there as being, friends of Hulk Hogan. I don't understand why Hulk didn't have Beefcake team up with him, but I guess he was injured at the time. But as a kid, I didn't know that, so I just was like, why is Beefcake out there, but he's not helping Hulk? Why didn't he just jump up on the side of the ring and then basically just, well, fine, Sid, if you want to leave, I'll just fill in for you. And because of this, I don't even know how it came to be. Like, all of a sudden, the match just changed, and Hulk wasn't in the main event anymore. I don't know if there was no Monday Night Raw at the time, and I really wasn't watching primetime because I think I was too young to stay up to watch it. So I don't really know, and that part really doesn't really make sense to me, how the match got changed, why Hulk was like, you know what, I've always been champion. I'm not the champion right now. I don't want to fight Ric Flair, even though I have that match. I'm that mad that Sid turned on me on Saturday night's main event in a tag match that I want to change the main event of WrestleMania. I don't know how Macho Man came to be the new number one contender just all of a sudden in the WWF magazine. We have these pictures of Flair and Miss Elizabeth, and Flair saying that they've been having a romantic affair, and Flair saying that I had her first, and that turns out to be a big old sham that they end up figuring out like it was Photoshop before it was Photoshop. And I remember the next WWF magazine, I think that's the one with Miss Elizabeth on the cover. Basically, she's saying that it's not true, and that they show the real pictures of Macho Man. And I remember that one of the clues that they give that the photos were fake was by showing Coliseum home videos on the entertainment center, and they're basically saying that it's WrestleMania 4, and that's one of the Macho Man's biggest events, and Ric Flair wouldn't have had it. I don't know. I don't know why you weren't saying that, even that Flair wasn't in the company at the time, that he's such a wrestling fan that he had to collect Coliseum home videos. I mean, why wouldn't Flair have those in his collection at the time? They were must-haves. But one of the things I remember more than anything else was I believe it was the USA special, like the countdown to WrestleMania, the final push. And we see Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon sitting in these director's chairs, and there's all these big pictures of Hulk Hogan throughout his career. One of them is for No Holds Barred. I didn't know that was something to come down the road, was that he was leaving to go make movies. But their talk was very slow and down to earth and sad. It wasn't a big excitement of things to come in the future of Hulk Hogan, and Hulk saying he didn't know how much time he had left, how much longer he could do this. As a kid, I can't say that I've watched it anytime soon, but I don't remember them talking about movies. It was just about Hulkamania was coming to an end, and just being like, what? And my dad kind of, he wasn't the biggest wrestling fan, but I don't know if they were talking about this on Entertainment Tonight or something like that, but him kind of telling me that he's got to go make movies now. I think when Earthquake sat on, I think when Earthquake sat on Hogan, that set up SummerSlam 1990. I think that's when he went to go make Suburban Commando, which ends up being released sort of shortly after WrestleMania 8 as well. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think he's leaving, is to go do like publicity and things like that. But he didn't really do all of the house shows, and he wasn't on TV, so I don't know why he wasn't. And I think the next movie that he was either had made or that was coming out was Mr. Nanny, which I remember being pumped about as a kid. But that movie's, I don't know. I don't even know if it's ever been released for streaming or DVD or anything like that, because I don't think anybody would really want to watch that today. I have memories of watching it, but I don't remember really anything other than Hulk Hogan in a tutu. As one of the things that I remembered in there. I don't even remember why he was a nanny. If he had to be a bodyguard, much like he was like in Suburban Commando. In Suburban Commando, I think he played an alien. If I remember right, I think his UFO crashed because he was there to guard the kids because they had to be around for a microchip. I don't really remember that movie, to tell you the truth. I've never seen that streaming or anything like that. I don't know if that's a WWE Films or if it's like a regular movie or what that is. No Holds Barred is. But, them saying that Hulkamania is going to be done. And then, of course, you have the match at WrestleMania. Hulk and Sid are going at it, and there's the disqualification because Harvey Wippleman jumps in the ring, and there's no 3 count. But Papa Shango makes his way down, and it's 2-on-1. All of a sudden, the Ultimate Warrior comes out. Ultimate Warrior had been fired after SummerSlam 1991. As a kid, I didn't even realize the Warrior was gone, honestly, to tell you the truth. But I think that Vince had to call the Warrior because I really think he thought that Hogan was leaving to Hollywood and never to come back. I guess they really thought he was going to be that big of a star, much like The Rock would have left and went on to be. But when The Rock's career started slipping, I think that around WrestleMania 27, that's why he came back, was to hype his career back up, get those people back on board, because they hadn't gone out and seen The Tooth Fairy, or he made another kids movie around that time. I don't really remember the name of it, but they didn't really go to see that. But I remember Hogan really not being around, and then when Hulk came back for WrestleMania 9, being really surprised. He had showed up to help out Beefcake and Jimmy Hart around WrestleMania 9. He was going to be in a tag match against Money Inc. That was really a different spot for him to be on the card. And then I don't even remember how I found out, but I definitely didn't watch the pay-per-view, and there was no internet at the time. And then to find out that Hulk actually won the championship was such a confusing thing. As a kid in the time, it's like he wasn't even in the match. How could he have won the championship? And people trying to break it down for you, and it just doesn't compute. It's like the first time you ever saw the Money in the Bank cashed in, and you're like, are they even allowed to do that? That doesn't really make sense at all to me. But I would go on to even read a book that would leave is like the WrestleMania book that came out around WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 2000. Is really long. It came with the DVD in there. I don't even know if it's just called WrestleMania, but it kind of has like a few pages. It looks like the encyclopedia, but it doesn't really, like, it's like you can go through and you read it. It has a whole lot of pictures. It's really good. They make it sound like when Hogan came back at WrestleMania 9, it was really a surprise. When WWF went to Las Vegas to sell the show, they were thinking they were going to get Hulk, and they're telling him, like, Hulk's not going to be here. Hulk's not coming. And, as a surprise, boom, there he is. But he wasn't part of the deal that got sold to Caesars. And, you know, he would only be there for a little bit. He ends up, you know, staying with them to do that European tour. He won the title, but he dropped it at the King of the Ring, and then he's gone. He goes to make that movie, TV show that ends up becoming like the new Baywatch for him. It's like a TV show that runs in syndication. They ended up playing it before Nitro a lot once he comes on board, and then they ended up talking him into going to WCW, which ends up being a huge fail for them until they decide to come up with the idea for the NWO and for him to turn heel, and that turned the whole freaking company around for years. Gave him a real kick in the pants where they were beating WWF. But a huge surprise as a kid to see Hulk Hogan retire. It was the first retirement I ever went through, and I believed it, that it was for real. And crazy the way that it all turned out. You know, to me, Hulk was the first guy to go Hollywood, even though we talked about Roddy Piper and of course there's Jesse Ventura, but I'll tell you the truth, I never saw Jesse Ventura wrestle a day in my life. I just remember him being like the guy that did commentary on the big shows, and then all of a sudden he wasn't with him anymore, and I thought that it was crazy. I saw him pop up flipping the channels one day doing commentary on these little RC cars that were driving around, and I guess what drove Jesse out of the WWF was the fact that he was making movies, and then he got asked to be like the cover guy for a Sega Genesis game, pro wrestling, and Vince didn't want him to do it, and he ended up leaving the company, which then led him to going to WCW, all over the naming rights for a video game that I don't think anybody remembers other than the reason why Jesse wasn't there. And, you know, Jesse and Vince went back and forth about money, about this, that, and the other, and, you know, Vince always gave him the money that he was due, if the court said so. But crazy time in wrestling, and I don't know why this year's WrestleMania made me think of Hulk Hogan's retirement around WrestleMania 8, but it definitely was something that really affected me as a kid growing up. So peace out. I'm there. So, oh shoot, this video is fucking long. Might be the longest video continuous I ever made. But yeah, damn. Peace out, guys.